2014. If you please stand for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will you please stay standing for a moment of silence for our men and women that are in service, both here and abroad, please. Great. Thank you very much. It's kind of a continuation. We had an exec session earlier today, or earlier this evening, pardon me, and so we're just kind of picking up where we left off. So moving into our agenda this evening, we have a proclamation. It is the POW MIA Recognition Day. Whereas the United States of America has participated in many wars, calling upon its sons and daughters to fight for their country, and whereas American men and women have been held captive by hostile powers during their military service, and whereas many American prisoners of war were subjected to harsh and inhumane treatment by their captors, which often resulted in death, and whereas Americans are still listed as missing and unaccounted for, and the families and friends of these missing Americans, as well as their fellow veterans, still endure uncertainty concerning their fate. And whereas the sacrifices of Americans still missing are deserving of national recognition and support for continuing priority efforts to determine their fate, and whereas the city of Canby is proud to join with other cities in the state of Oregon and in the nation in honoring those still missing. Now, therefore, I, Brian Hodson, Mayor of the city of Canby, hereby proclaim September 19th, 2014 as POW MIA Recognition Day in Canby, and encourage all citizens to join in this observance given unto my hand the 17th day of September 2014. And we have Mike Landerville here to accept the proclamation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Really appreciate it.
Gratefully accept this on behalf of the veterans of foreign wars.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, it's good to see you.
And we have, we'd like to present to the city a POW MIA flag.
Go ahead and take an end of it. We'll
It's amazing. Perfect. Well, thank you guys very much, and we will make sure that this gets hung up above City Hall here in the next day or two.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our ladies auxiliary would also like to say a few words and thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor,
Really appreciate it. Yes.
with your permission, I would like to pass out to the councilman and yourself a small postcard size MIA card, and then our spaghetti feed that's coming up.
Perfect. Yes,
That's all
please
right,
do.
sir.
Yes.
Mayor, this is our auxiliary president, Pam Seeley.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Pam.
Thank you very much.
So while Pam's passing that out, it's an all-you-can-eat spaghetti dinner on September 27th from 4 to 7 at the Legion Hall on Main Street. So please come one, come all. $8 for adults, $3.50 for kids 12 and under. Tonight, that does say all-you-can-eat,
It
correct?
should be noted as the Aurora Legion.
Sorry, pardon me, it's the Aurora American Legion. Thank you. I can scrounge
100th
up.
anniversary for the Ladies Auxiliary.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Two things. First of all, thank you for the invitation for the spaghetti dinner. I'll be there. The mayor and I often talk about how Canby needs an Italian restaurant. So in lieu of that, so in lieu of that, keep holding these.
We can get our spaghetti fix and support a good cause at the same time.
And secondly, this has been, I've been through a number of these while being on the council and before, and it doesn't get any easier. It, in fact, if anything, it gets a little harder. So, thank you for remembering.
Thank you, Your Honor. We'd also like to mention Irene Brashear's auxiliary. For all the spaghetti lovers, potential Italian restaurant, not only do we have the traditional spaghetti, because of the World War II, we have spamgetti, and then we had a Post member's family was vegetarian, so we have vegagetti. So we cover all bases, so please come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Irene, I love it. You guys want to cover all the bases. That's good. I love it. Perfect.
I think we're gonna have some spam.
Next on the agenda, we've got a presentation from the Clackamas Community College Board, Imagine Clackamas Special Report, and then also some words about the upcoming measure.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the council and mayor for letting us be here this evening. My name is Richard Othis. I'm on the Board of Education at Clackamas Community College. There are 7 zones on the board. I'm Zone 7, which I represent Canby and Molalla. At this time, I have the privilege of introducing the president of the college, Joanne Truesdale.
Thank you, Richard. Members of the council and Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for allowing us to talk a little bit about Imagine Clackamas. I'm a Clackamas Community College graduate, 1982, and so what happens when I talk about Clackamas is I can talk about Clackamas a lot. So I need a timekeeper, and so and so how many minutes do I have, and can I give a signal for 3 minutes to go? Great, thank you. So in your packet, you have 3 different pieces of information that was provided. The first I want to talk about is, I'm hoping it's still with you, and if you need an extra copy, we have copies. The first is this particular piece, which is our Imagine Clackamas report. A couple of years ago, the board began conducting zone-by-zone convenings of local community members who wanted to participate in developing a survey that the board wanted to find out what did, as Clackamas goes towards its 50th anniversary, what did the community really want? Not what did the college board want to provide, not did what the president want to provide, not staff, but what did the community want and need from us? And so to do that, they enlisted in each zone a group of individuals who came and went through a process and said, you know, we'll develop the questionnaire with you and for you. And so that's what this group of about 100 people did. They developed a community-based survey. It went out a couple of years ago, almost 2 years ago, and we had nearly 3,000 people go online and fill it out. There were intercept surveys. We talked to high school students. And so a variety of people filled out what did they want. And then on top of that, we convened businesses from around the county in the sectors that are the economic development strategy sectors for the county. So in professional and public services, manufacturing technology and technology, health sciences, film and media, and agricultural and natural resources. And those business leaders, about 100 of them, talked to the board about what did they need from the college as we prepared people for jobs not only now, but education for the future and job training for the future. And what happened in that process was we learned, the board learned, that people, everyone still wants an education from Clackamas that leads to a university transfer degree or leads to a post-secondary credential for employment. Sometimes it's called career technical education, sometimes it's called vocational education, but it's really that first 2 years, come to Clackamas, get 2 years of skilled training, and then go off into employment. So those were the top 2 over and over again. And then the businesses said, yes, we want that too. What we need you to do, though, is to update your equipment. Some of the things that you are training on are great, but with the economic recession and the restructuring, we're starting to get in and retool ourselves. And you need to do the same. And so the specific areas that they identified were industrial technical learning, especially in manufacturing, robotics, renewable energy, and welding, those kinds of things, and pre-apprenticeship programs. We don't have enough space to prepare students to actually apply to apprenticeship programs. We do have a utility line worker program in our Wilsonville campus, but nothing that actually creates an actual coherent set of pre-skills to get people involved in the trades. And so, great, so we knew that, we knew what the community wanted, and then the board, all through this process, decided to look at the facilities. They hired outside engineering and architectural firm to do a detailed inventory of all of the buildings. We are 50 years old. Some of the buildings were built in 1966, and in fact, our electrical trunk line was put in about that time too, and hasn't been replaced. And so, a comprehensive review of everything from seismic to basic building structures to heating, plumbing, HVAC, all of those things. And that was ranked by the company to say these are the critical need areas and given a book. And the board, Richard, I think it was probably about that big and about that wide. Board members went through a review process of all of those. So what happened is we had the information from the community, we had the information from businesses, and we had the information about what our facilities could do. And by could do, anything that we could remodel to address these needs was dealt with. Anything we could just change over, move here to here, no cost, has already been accounted for. In the end, what happened was that there were 3 facilities that were identified as very important. Our science edition has 7 labs associated with that. Our science labs currently were built in 1981. I, in fact, attempted chemistry at Clackamas Community College in the same lab that people are attempting chemistry in today. And things have changed. Many things have changed. And we also identified a workforce development facility to provide training and on-demand training for employers at our Harmony campus. There's the Oregon Institute of Technology facility that we co-own. It is a 61-year-old building. Some people call it the Take a Brick building, meaning you can drop by there and take a brick off the outside anytime you wish. That needs to be replaced and made into something more compatible for learning in the future, especially additional science labs for health sciences, additional dental labs potentially, and then community spaces for small business development and for community gatherings and community learnings. And then lastly, our Industrial Technical Center, which allows us to do several things. Right now, we provide high school for regional high school students. So we're part of a high school program. We have high school students on campus. We also do our manual machining and advanced manufacturing, multi-axis. We have a partnership with Gossiger International, who provides us with state-of-the-art equipment. Right now, our facilities hold 3 pieces of state-of-the-art equipment. The last piece that came through, we had to get a Sawzall and cut the side out of one of our walls in order to get the building in. We need to get more students on those facilities, on those machines, and expand the ability to get more of that technology in our program. The industrial technology does that. We also, several years ago, worked with a group on renewable energy for electric grids, for cars, for a number of things. And in fact, I understand that Matt Michael is leaving Canby Utility and headed to Lane. And in fact, Lane was part of that, the Lane Electrical was part of that advisory group. So I look forward to having you come back up to the campus then.
Excited to do so.
Good. And so from that perspective, we have that. We also can then introduce robotics. Thanks. And in robotics, you know where that is. In your packet also, thank you so much. In your packet also is this Clackamas Community College profile, where you see all the information about students, veteran services, workforce. On the back is information about Canby and Molalla. And then you also have an information piece around the bond. You may have also received this in your mail. And I'd like to turn it back over to Richard. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Joanne. As a board member of Clackamas Community College and former board chair, we took the time over the past 2 years to really listen and learn. Our communities told us what they wanted. It was affordable education, transferring, leading to a 4-year university and job training that leads to high demand and higher wage careers. We were asked to modernize our facility, especially for workforce, industrial technology, science, and engineering. We were asked to keep property tax supporting a bond, the same as it has been for the past 15 years. The $90 million brings in $16 million from the state and matching funds. It also does not increase current tax rates. I'd like to thank you for your time on behalf of the students, communities, business, and voters. I'd like to thank Mayor Hodson for endorsing our bond of Measure 3447. I'd like to thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys. I did not attend Clackamas Community College, but having utilized much of the small business administration aspects there, and Council Ryder and I were just talking here before our meeting, just the scope of education and how much it's changed in the workforce and how much it's changed in the last couple of years. And not every, I think, high school graduate necessarily looks at going to a university, but as you said, the vocational skills that have kind of moved out of the high school and are non-existent, and how do they get those skills? And I think that's where Clackamas Community College has stepped in and filled that gap, and we're seeing tremendous partnerships with businesses, and many of them in our own industrial park. And I know Robert Bitter has worked tirelessly around the county to try to build those partnerships and whatnot. So really appreciate the continued efforts to keep upgrading those systems and those facilities for the long term, because we're just talking, I have a neighbor down the street, their daughter is going to be graduating from Canby High School this June, and she'll be graduating and getting her AA at the same time, because she's been able to go over to the community college and advance much quickly than some of her peers. So I think that those are advantages that a lot of our community don't know that are out there, and it's a tremendous piece. So thank you guys very much, and we'll hopefully this will pass, and we can see what we can keep doing.
We hope so too.
Counselor?
Well, first of all, anything somebody as respected as Richard supports, I'm behind 100%. So fortunate to have somebody with his credibility on your board. On a lighter note, I will always be in debt to the college for the number of trained workers that they have been sending to JV Northwest, further enhancing the beer-making capacity of this region. But on a more serious note, I truly believe that community colleges are the institution of the moment, that they are going to be the savior of the middle class. That as our economy recovers, we see jobs that people are not trained for, and we need to get them trained, and get them trained now and on modern equipment that is actually out there. And in fact, as I understand, part of the partnership with JV Northwest of having them trained on site was so that they could be working with actual equipment that wasn't immediately replicated on campus. So you've got my full support, and I appreciate the process that you've gone through on this, Joanne.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Next on the agenda is communications, and Joe is flying solo over there today. He's got to. Should we put Joe on the spot this evening? So, Joe, anything from you?
I felt a few drips of rain. I hope it rains tomorrow. Help out people in Estacada.
Amen.
Yes.
Otherwise, no communications.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Joe.
This is the first opportunity for citizen input and community announcements. If we have these handy-dandy little yellow cards, if you're so inclined and want to come up and give an opinion on non-agenda items at this point, you're welcome to do so. We have one from Gordon Christensen, who's running the cameras tonight for us, and it's actually an invitation and challenge to the council and mayor to come sit in at one of the Canby home football games and broadcast, or come hang out and talk important things like duck football or beaver football or the Cougar game. So if you are so inclined and want to give your hand at broadcasting, they will gladly entertain us.
We
as
have a
Zoom
former
members.
broadcasting person amongst us.
Well, and having a former college football star I think we need to get.
Star, did he say star?
He said
Get,
stop.
You, right?
get him in the booth, so, but I think it's an invitation worthy of us participating, yes.
I don't know if, you're talking about Todd, right? From the Star piece?
No football.
Moving into mayor's business, kind of a long laundry list here, so bear with me, please. So congratulations are in order to, really, frankly, to Canby and our Arts and Culture Commission on our new artwork that's been put in downtown on First Avenue. It's our first steps into public art, and I think the pieces that that commission put together and picked for our First Avenue were well done. Some really great pieces. So if you haven't been down to take a look at them, please come down and take a look and hang out. Some very well done art pieces for our community. I want to say congratulations to the Canby Rotarians on celebrating their 35 years of service in Canby recently. So thank you to them. They've done a tremendous amount of things, for everything from dictionaries in the schools to the 3-on-3 tournament to the clock tower that you see in the parking lot there by Thriftway, and countless other projects that around town. So thank you to them. Today I had the opportunity to help celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Canby Ferry today. That's the boat that crosses the Willamette, not the actual ferry with wings. Yeah, so 100 years that has been shuttling people and goods to and from Canby. So there's a new plaque on the ferry, so please come down and take a look at it. It's a very well done plaque and piece of artwork from a local Clackamas resident who took their time and crafted that. So if you get an opportunity, please go down and take a look at that. There's been some talk of the taste and smell of our water. I know Matt Michaels is here, and there was an article in the paper. But those of you that don't get the Canby Herald, it is due to an algae buildup. Due to the lack of rain, we've not been able to break that up and move that away from some of the areas that we draw water from. And as it's been explained in the paper, and as Matt Michaels has explained on a couple occasions, the price to implement a piece of equipment to take care of that for the 1 month that it might be a problem is very cost prohibitive, and they've elected not to make the investment in trying to correct the problem for a month when that's all it seems to be the issue. So I know that some have resorted to buying bottled water for brewing their morning coffee, so bear with us. I think rain is in the forecast. I think, hopefully, we'll see.
Is this the same algae that's going through Portland right now that's on the news? Good.
No, let's keep Portland in Portland there.
Yeah, all right.
Okay. An update on the signal lights on 99E. Council Ryder had broached the subject with our Public Works team is to find out what's going on with that. And so, as some of you may or may not know, there's a big project through at Ivy, Grant, and Elm to redo the lights and put in big boom arms, and they've run into issues with being able to bore into the large boulders that seem to be in a couple of the corners, and it's preventing those from going up. I'm being told that the project will pick back up after some enhancements and re-engineering, hopefully in October or November. We shall see. Also, had a couple of email inquiries about the trees that were being cut down on Southeast 13th. That was a prohibitive measure. So those trees were taken out because they were a shallow root system and starting to push up the sidewalks. So the city reached out to those property owners on the, I guess, the back side of those or the front side of 13th there, and so worked out a deal to remove the trees, grind up the stumps, and Jerry is working on getting new trees actually possibly donated to those homeowners to be able to put in a much different tree that will prevent the raising of the sidewalk. So if you go by there and you wonder why all those trees were cut down, that is why. We're trying to prevent a much costlier fix in new sidewalks on 13th. On the city manager update, so we've extended an offer to, tentative offer to Rick Robinson, and he has accepted that offer. And so we've moved into the background search, or background check on him, and that is going well, and that should be wrapping up soon. We have a tentative start date of October 13th for him, so stay tuned on that piece. So we are moving along with that very well. And finally, this evening, I want to wish my grandfather, who is in Ohio and does occasionally take in a council meeting online, a very happy 97th birthday to him today. So thank you very much. And with that, I'll turn it over to Councilor Rocha.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have anything, and you can blame Matilda because she canceled the meeting last night.
It's all your fault, Matilda.
Hey, it's still summer.
I don't have any reports.
Nothing on the
tonight.
parks front? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Today is a good day for birthdays, apparently. It's my husband's grandma's birthday today, also, 93.
And it's also, isn't it,
And it's also
thank you, I thought I was going to leave that to you.
Constitution Day, and everybody left. If those of you who are still here would like a copy of our U.S. Constitution and Declaration of Independence, I've brought some, and they'll be on the table. You're welcome to take one home with you. And for those in TV land, if you can get down here before we're gone, you're welcome to come grab one off the table as well. So happy birthday to our Constitution as well. Since last meeting, I think I have quite a list. I likewise attended the 100th anniversary of the Canby Ferry this afternoon. First Friday and the art unveiling, I guess we didn't veil it, we unveiled it. That was a great turnout, it was a lot of fun, as was the Kiss Summer Goodbye Party. I don't know if any of you were able to make it that was in the room, but it was a good time. We had double the vendors over last year. The band was great, and we had our Main Street Promotions Committee meeting this week to kind of recap that and figure out, what worked, what didn't, what might we change for next year. I think some of the kids' activities will look a little different next year. And we talked about Halloween. That's coming up. Our next big event will be the Halloween parade and trick-or-treating event. And we can always use volunteers, so if there's anybody who would like to come and help facilitate said event, get a hold of Jamie. Let's see, clicking at the list here. I attended the Traffic Safety Commission meeting, but I will let Councilor Coleman report on that. And I have the school board meeting tomorrow evening, so I'll report on that at the next meeting. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Coleman.
Mr. Mayor, I attended the traffic safety meeting, which we hold on the first Friday of every month at the Public Works Conference Room. And we really appreciate Matilda Dees, who's with us this evening, senior planner for the city, came and gave a really nice presentation on Pine Street and some of the challenges where, there's some new proposed developments and just really some traffic issues. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And Jerry Nelzine from Public Works coming and sharing some solutions. And I always appreciate Brian Brown and Tracy as well for coming to that meeting. So really excited about some of the solutions coming online down the road. Also, this past Friday, our traffic safety kind of took a field trip. We went out to 10th Street on the Northwoods development and kind of walked the course, you might say, to identify where some good safety signs might go. And also, there's been some concern about the safety at the intersection of 10th and Ivy. And so after having that walkthrough, at the next meeting, we're going to be digging a little deeper into those issues, and I'll be sharing that with the group. But a really great group, and I'm tickled to be a liaison to that. Also attended the library board meeting. A really great group of folks. Roger is doing a great job as a board chair, and also they just are doing a really good job. If you go to the Canby Library online, they've got tons of activities going on. Their book sales have been setting records, and they just are doing a great job considering the small space that they have. And so they're very excited about being very involved in the new building, as am I. Also attended the First Friday event and the unveiling of the artwork. It was very impressive, the turnout and just the enthusiasm. I just think those First Fridays are a great thing for our community. Went to the 9/11 memorial at the fire station and attended the Main Street meeting this afternoon. And Jamie and the city are very excited about the RFP process coming up for some of our buildings and some of the possibilities. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Parker.
My bicycle committee is going to be meeting in 2 weeks. We sort of took the summer off, but I suspect we'll be getting involved when we meet on the 30th, that there is a statewide bicycle planning, long-range planning process going on. And I suspect that we'll be working on trying to get a few ideas into the long-range plan. The idea is that as the state redoes highways, that it makes accommodations for bicycles. And for bicyclists in the area, the trickiest part is getting between Canby and Oregon City. So we're going to try and get that put in there. Secondly, as I walked over here tonight, I walked through Waite Park, and the Parks crew has been busy cleaning it up. And I'm just so proud of them and proud of that little park. It has been the site of so many neat things this summer, and it's a real jewel, and the folks who work on it, I appreciate it. And finally, as liaison to Main Street, I'm always promoting Shop Local, so a shout out to my son, Ricky Parker, who bought a guitar down at town at the guitar shop, and some bicycle parts at the downtown bike shop. So it's nice to have a family member who's walking the talk.
I was excited to learn that they rent a Canby Music starting this year.
Oh.
Because the boy wants to play a trumpet, so I had to find a trumpet. So guess where I'm going tomorrow.
It's going to be a nice sound around the house.
It'll go well with the violin. And Mr. Mayor, if I might ask Councilor Parker
Yes.
a question?
Yes.
I saw in the bi-monthly report a video that you might be working on. I'm wondering if you could share something about your commentating skills there.
Yeah, we're going to be producing a videotape that will be used online and other purposes for recruiting industry. And oddly enough, that seems to be part of one of my careers of doing documentary and film narration. So I'll be working with CTV5 and our Economic Development Department to try and put together something to help fill up our industrial park and bring further prosperity to the community.
Very nice. Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Mr. Mayor, because I was absent due to vacation, I was unable to attend Planning Commission liaison meeting, but we'll be looking forward to that next week. And no report on the, so what was the other? It was a special meeting I was supposed to go, I forgot what that one was. But anyway, did attend the 100th anniversary of the ferry, dedication of the ferry, and unfortunately I got there about 3 seconds too late to be able to take the ride, Lady Mayor, and glad I didn't try to jump to it.
The ship had already sailed.
Ship had already
It had sailed.
sailed, yeah, that's right. But sure enjoyed the cake and all the festivities and everything that went on, so it was a great time.
Perfect. Thank you all. I will add, since an update actually on the Civic Building, we've actually had hit the trade magazines, was it this Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've gone out looking for the construction management part of it, and so we've put out our request for proposals, and that hit the trade magazines, I think, on Monday.
JC.
Yeah, and it was the Business Journal of
Daily
Commerce.
Journal.
Daily Journal.
And we have the property.
And we have the property, and I think the ink is dried on that deal. And so, in fact, I think we've already had a couple of requests, or some follow-up calls already come in this week about the project. So that's already starting to move along very well. So I wanted to give that update as well. Thank you all. I will move into the consent agenda. Not sure who has the approval of
Mayor?
those minutes. Yes, ma'am.
I move that we approve the consent agenda consisting of the minutes of the September 3rd, 2014 City Council regular meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Coleman to approve the consent agenda, which includes the approval of the minutes of the September 3rd, 2014 City Council regular meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That passes 5-0. Next tip, moving into resolutions and ordinances, and with that, we will,
Yeah, first up, you have Resolution 1199. It's authorizing the sale of water revenue refunding bonds and related matters. And here to present is Matt Michael and potentially Carol Sullivan.
perfect, thank you. Good evening, Matt, how are you, sir?
We're fully present, folks. Mayor Hodson and members of the council, my name is Matt Michael. I'm the general manager at Canby Utility, and with me is Carol Sullivan, the finance manager at Canby Utility. As you see in your packet, we're here to ask the council to approve the authorization of revenue bonds to refund existing 2004 bonds for the remaining 10 years at a lower interest rate. And as the memo points out, this is for an interest savings over the remaining term of those bonds. We've provided you the details if someone likes to pour through the numbers, and Carol's here to help walk you through that if you have any questions. So with that, I'll stop and see if there are any questions.
If you wouldn't mind for the videotape and the viewers at home that are watching, eating their popcorn, just exactly what it is that we're refinancing and what those savings will come out to be?
Sure. So the story starts with, in 2004, $2.9 million were borrowed as a revenue bond, which is backed by water rates. And with that money, Canby Utility built, we have a list here, we built water treatment expansion, backwash ponds to help with the cleaning out of water treatment filters in a way that allows us to not dispose into the Malala River. So we've isolated the system with that improvement. And then also do groundwater source evaluations for where we might find that secondary water supply source. So those are the capital improvements that those bonds helped pay for. And the bonds had their half-life after 10 years, which is 2014, can be refunded. And so we contacted Bond Counsel and worked with them on looking at would it pencil out. And indeed, the analysis they ran for us provided us the number that you have in your packet of present value savings over the remaining 10 years of about $156,000. And that's interest savings is where those come from. So that's what we are here to ask the City Council's approval for. And one last item is that these are bonds that are issued by City of Canby. The water system is owned by the city. Canby Utility operates the system on behalf of the city under an intergovernmental agreement. So these are city bonds. We've shared the information with the city attorney, the city finance director, to make sure everybody's on the same page and that at a staff level, everything is as it should be. And so what you have before you is the final item to get rolling. We hope to close on the bonds tomorrow morning.
Perfect. Thank you for that recap.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt Resolution 1199, authorizing the sale of water revenue refunding bond and related matters.
Second.
Moving fast tonight, I like it. All right, motion's been made by Counselor Hensley and seconded by Counselor Coleman to approve resolution number 1199, a resolution authorizing the sale of water revenue refunding bonds and related matters. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you,
very
Mr.
much.
Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Good job.
Mr. Mayor, next up, we have Resolution 1201. It's authorizing an amendment to a land rental agreement between the City of Canby and Simnett Nursery. I can say a few words on that, and Matilda Dees, Senior Planner for the city, is also here, and she has some knowledge about it as well. But if I may, Resolution 1199, if I could get your signature, because he wants to do this tomorrow morning.
Yes.
And then I can have him go make copies.
We're a just-in-time sort of body.
Really dragging our feet on.
And with the power of the pen, it is done. There we
Power
go.
of the vote.
Yes, that too.
All right, so let me attest that I know who you are and you sign. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, sorry for that.
No, that's okay.
Trying to move your business.
I appreciate it.
Okay, so 1201 is a resolution that basically extends for another 2 years a land rental agreement that's been in place for some time with Simnet Nursery. This was some land that was slated to be parkland. It's 2.35 acres of land that adjoins, I guess, what was at one time Auburn Farms 2 subdivision. And this is where park system development fees have been used to acquire this land with the idea that we're going to make it into a park. But anybody who's been watching kind of the budget season knows that we don't really have the maintenance crew to institute a whole bunch of new parks right now, even though it's on the list. And you know this far better than I do, Councilor Parker. But so we're at a posture where originally this was $600 that they were renting it for, basically for storage, because they were living on it to begin with. And it's gone up in price a little bit, like $50 a year over the last few years. So we're now at about $900 a year to rent so they can store their stuff on there, which is kind of nice for the city because they keep it up, and so it doesn't lie fallow and become a huge weed mess and all of that. So there's some benefit, obviously, to the city besides a little bit of money waiting on greener, better times, I guess, so that we can have a nice park and
Absolutely.
do the plans that I know everybody would love to institute in the Parks and Rec Department. So, do you have anything to add?
Well, it was the first park dedication that we had since we adopted our park dedication ordinance, and we worked with the Simnets and negotiated it, and it worked out really well because the value of the land pretty much equaled the value of the SDCs that came from that development. So we bought it outright, but it kind of worked out in the wash just the way it was supposed to. And the reason it worked so well is because it was one owner, and they were very willing and wonderful to work with, the family, the Simnet family, and nursery. They have nursery stock. And it worked out really well for us, and it also kind of demonstrates how if you buy land before it is annexed into the city, it's so much better deal, because that would, they probably could have had the value today, if they divided that up into lots, it would come back, instead of like $400,000, which we paid, a minimum, lots now are like $90,000, $80,000 to $150 in Northwoods, by the way, for a lot, single-family lot. This is R1 property. It would have been $1.8 million at the higher end, and almost $1 million if we tried to buy it after it was in and all the stuff was to it. So, land banking makes sense in this, where we get it a little bit ahead of the curve, and we bank it and lease it back out. So it's really kind of a poster child for how you can sort of have that particular agreement work for you until we're ready to go forward with something. So it's been a good thing for us. So.
All right.
Yeah, are there any questions?
Any questions or comments at all? No? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 1201, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to execute an amendment to the land rental agreement between the City of Canby and Simnet Nursery LLC.
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilor Rocha, second by Councilor Hensley, to adopt resolution number 1201, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to execute an amendment to the land rental agreement between the City of Canby and Simnet Nursery LLC. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0.
And then finally, we have, under resolutions and ordinances, we have ordinance 1398. This is an ordinance that amends part of Title 16, the planning code. And this is up for second reading, just by way of saying a few words. You voted in first vote to reach second vote, and this was somewhat of a cleanup on the language for several of the sections, and I think the last cleanup was, there was a question about what some of the language was, so out of an abundance of caution, it seemed like enough of an amendment that we're back here again for a second reading. Yeah, second reading, exactly.
Yeah, so we're doing some cleanup language of some type 2 processes for the industrial park, and also some Canby land development and planning ordinance pieces, some text amendments, so yeah, some cleaning up of code for us moving forward. And so I will gladly take a motion on this, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt ordinance number 1398, an ordinance amending chapters 16.30, 16.32, 16.34, 16.35, and 16.49 of the Title 16 of the Canby Municipal Code.
I'll second.
Motion has been made by Counselor Hensley and seconded by Counselor Rocha to approve ordinance number 1398, an ordinance amending chapter 16.30, 16.32, 16.34, 16.35, and 16.49 of Title 16 of the Canby Municipal Code. Up for roll call vote, please.
Yes, so Counselor Roca,
Yes.
Counselor Hensley,
Aye.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Parker,
Yes.
and Counselor Ryder.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Carries 5-0. So moving into new business, I don't think there's anything slated necessarily, but any new business pieces right now of anyone? No? All right. Staff report, since we have no city administrator theoretically this evening.
No, none.
From Joe. Second opportunity this evening for some citizen input. Seeing head shaking, we will move from that. Joe, action review, please.
Yes, we approved the consent agenda with the minutes of September 3rd. We adopted Resolution 1199, adopted Resolution 1201, and we also adopted Ordinance 1398.
Perfect. Thank you,
And
sir.
there's no exec session today.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
before we adjourn,
Yes.
somebody just walked back into the room so I can say thank you to Mr. Matt Michael for all his years of service at Canby Utility Board.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you very much.
sir. You are leaving a void with big shoes to fill, and we are envious of Lane Power and what they're getting. But thank you for all that you've done, and I'm sure will continue to do in your new role. So you've made it hard for Bob and his compatriots there on the board to get that solved. So we wish you the best of luck, and thank you for all that you've done.
Gonna miss your cheerful disposition.
Yes.
Very kind of you, thank you.
Could I add one thing? We're
Yes,
going to
sir.
have a reception for Matt.
Oh, that's right.
Going away reception at 3 o'clock in Canby Utility on Friday.
Perfect.
And everybody's invited.
All right.
Which happens to be International Talk Like a Pirate Day.
That I will show up and see from you, Mr. Matt Michaels. All
My
right.
son will show up with his patch on.
With no other business, I'll take a motion for adjournment, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Counselor Ryder. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
We are gone. Cammy, good night. Thank you very much.